Hey everyone, today I have an album review that I've been kind of avoiding for a while because I'm finding it kind of hard to understand why I felt the way I did about it. The record I'm referring to is the third release from metal outfit Sylosis. Now, Sylosis are a UK-based metal band that have been around since 2000. However, we can pretty much discount their career up until around 2008 because members were still in school and they didn't really release anything. They did the odd gig occasionally, that was pretty much it. In 2006 and in 2008 they dropped 2 EPs. These were both released from a small independent label known as In At The Deep End, and the releases were kind of overlooked somewhat. However, in 2007 they managed to gain the interest of Nuclear Blast. Now, in 2008, the band released their debut album, Conclusion of an Age. At this point, the band received massive amounts of hype from media and fans and had a great reaction to this record. It got them a huge amount of praise, and I can completely understand why. I actually personally love this record too. What they were doing was kind of standard enough to not frighten anyone away, and anyone who was a long-time metal fan could really get into this. However, what they were doing was also unique enough to stand out amongst the lot. And the reason for that was they essentially mixed loads of different styles of metal together in a really amazing way. This thing had elements of thrash metal, of melodic death metal, progressive metal, metalcore, and the tiniest little bit of power metal as well thrown in there. Between this musical style and the band's playing ability, they crafted a really heavy, memorable, and also really beautiful album. I really loved the memorable melodies and riffs, the epic highs, and the fast-paced thrashing lows. I just want to point out that each member showed amazing playing ability. The drums were great and played loads of D beats with this double bass drumming that was super pacey and super fast, fills all over the place, and it was really tight as well. It had these blisteringly fast and melodic solos that were incredibly memorable and actually kind of flashy at the same time. The vocalist had a nice dynamic range too. I still personally view this album as one of the better albums in metal music, especially in the 21st century. The next album, Edge of the Earth, is where things got really interesting for the band. With this release, the band's previous vocalist decided to leave, and guitarist Josh decided to step up and take vocal duties, as well as keep into his guitar. This album stylistically didn't change a great deal. It was a bit slower and had less thrashy sections and more melodic parts. It also let the progressive influence really shine through a bit more. Again, this album was incredibly highly praised. It landed in countless Album of the Year lists, and was praised as a modern metal masterpiece. But personally, I felt it actually wasn't even close to as good as the debut. My reasons were a mix of things. It felt like it was a little one-paced at times. There were so many melodic sections that they lost kind of all impact and just swallowed each other. I also found it to be overly long, despite only being 10 minutes longer than the debut. Ultimately, I just kind of thought it was a bit of a boring guitar wankfest, and I know I'm going to get a lot of hate for that, but that's kind of how I feel. I also didn't feel that the vocals had as much power or variation, and I'm not saying it was a bad record, or that Josh is a rubbish vocalist, or anything like that. I just felt it was a little too flashy. They kind of lost the songwriting, which really shined through on Conclusion of an Age, which really kept me returning to that album. I did enjoy moments of it on it. I could completely understand why people loved it so much. It just wasn't for me. Now, this obviously leaves Monolith in kind of an interesting spot for me. The album opens up with the song Out From Below, which opens in classic Sylosis style with nice clean guitars, and I actually really like the texture and the sound of them. Then the drums kick in, and it's all sounding very grandiose and starting to build. Then eventually, you get these syncopated cymbal chokes, and a thrashy, pacey riff comes in. And I must say, I love this riff. It's really well written and melodic and heavy at once. Vocals come in, they sound great. To describe this song, as with all Sylosis songs, it would just take forever, because there's so much length and complexity with them. But ultimately, this thing just explodes in a glorious celebration of blistering solos, nice melodies, thrashy riffs, decent crescendos, and towards the middle of the track, it lost a bit of momentum for me. Just got a teeny bit repetitive, but it didn't stop me from enjoying this track. Now, like on the previous track, I said it opened up with some nice, calm guitars. I kind of feel like this was overused throughout the album. It was used on Fear of the World, which is the next track too, and it was also used on What Dwells Within. Admittedly, with What Dwells Within, it was kind of a bit more reasonable. It admittedly did add something to the song, but I still ultimately felt this whole thing was overused. One really standout track for me is the song The River, which opens again very quietly, but this track stood out for me as one of the stronger ones because of its great sense of aggression and melody mixed into the intro riff. It progresses really nicely. It has a lot of what made the first album good, which is that attention to detail with the sudden bursts of double bass drumming and the fills that really held it together and kept the momentum up. Blistering solos are in there too, with a sense of melody again. It kind of lost this charm towards the end of the first half of the song, if that makes sense, but they picked it up again because at a halfway point there's this very sort of epic feeling and it starts building again, and the whole last half of the track is just brilliant. Now, one problem I'm having with this album is it is kind of samey. I'm getting the same ideas, the same kind of feelings throughout the whole album. It's not really changing a great deal. The same pace as well. It's slightly faster and thrashier than Edge of the Earth, which is nice. I'm not complaining. However, I just wish there was a bit more variation there. Now, ultimately, to be honest, I don't really feel like there's a great deal more I can say about this album. It's got its really great melodic moments that are kind of memorable. It's got its thrashy sections, which have come back from Conclusion of an Age, that were kind of, like I said, missing on Edge of the Earth. It's kind of a cohesive record. It's got a lot of the same stuff, so if you like the first few tracks, you'll like the whole record, more or less. However, having said all that praise, I found this album dull, like I did with Edge of the Earth, despite the fact it had those riffy sections as well. I wanted to like this record. I really, really wanted to like this record. Maybe it will grow on me, but ultimately, I feel like they've dragged out the songs here. I feel like they could have made all of these songs 2 minutes shorter. This record could have easily clocked in at 45 minutes, or even around 35 minutes. There just aren't enough ideas to really spread them out over this album. Again, that's my personal opinion, and I understand that a lot of people that like metal, that are really, really into metal, will really enjoy this album, because it is a very good metal record. It is great for what it is. I feel the songwriting was stronger on here than Edge of the Earth as well, which was nice. But unfortunately, Sylosis nowadays just kind of tends to bore me a little bit, which is unfortunate because they're a really good metal band, and also their members are extremely talented. For example, Josh, who does vocals and guitar, is a phenomenal guitarist. Some of the solos he plays on this thing, some of the riffs he plays on this thing while singing are incredible. Kind of awe-inspiring, your jaw will hit the floor levels of incredible. Another thing is that these guys are incredibly young, considering the level of technicality they're doing. It's mad. However, again, despite the fact, I guarantee you guys will love this album if you like metal, or even if you don't like metal, if you just like great melodies and aggressive riffs. But it just wasn't quite there for me. I'm still not 100% sure why, like I said at the start of the review, but there's just something about it, and I'm going to kind of leave it there because I've ranted on a bit long. Ultimately, I think this album is deserving of around a 5 to a 5.5. Again, I ultimately just felt this album was a little bit too repetitive for me. Again, bit overly long, but whatever. Sure, you guys will like it. Please don't kill me for this. But regardless, I'd love to hear what you thought of the album, why you thought it was good if you thought it was good. If you're on my team, then let me know. Tell me why you think it's dull as well. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to like, comment and subscribe. Also, watch my other videos that I've put up on YouTube. Cheers, and I'll catch you guys and gals later.